What is a question? That statement itself is very peculiar because it's asking about what it is. It'd probably be better to start not talking about what a question is doing right now and what a question in general does normally, trend-wise. So a question is a statement that presents a situation to analyze, to figure out the unknown variable. So many variables are unknown that questions are rampant. I find myself asking questions almost constantly. I want to know more. I want to be able to do more. I want ability, not only physically, but cognitively as well. And so I ask questions almost constantly, like I probably just mentioned. So, a question is a statement that presents a situation with an unknown variable and asks us to solve. Humans ask questions. Animals do as well, but they're not asking questions of their own accord necessarily. If we look at animals, they're living off of instinct. Their brains and their hormones tell them what to do constantly. They don't have free will in the sense that we do. We're able to think. We're able to present new situations in our minds, which is unique to people. So when animals ask questions, they're not really asking any questions. They're simply living off of instinct and applying what they already know. As people, we operate off of neurons. Neurons command our brains, which command our bodies, and our thoughts, and everything that we are, really. To think about something, to do something. So, in a way, I am not my brain. I am the neuron. Not one particular neuron, just the neurons themselves. When we understand a concept, 2 plus 2 equals 4, or if you read 1984, 2 plus 2 equals 5, the neurons fire off in a certain way that presents different cases. Case number 1, we have 2 plus 2, that's entity A. 2 is fired off, and then a plus in the same field, meaning that this 2 is going to be added upon, and then the second variable is introduced, the other 2, and then in the second field, we combine those 2 variables instantly, and that takes on the shape of its own. The entire equation has a complex set of neurons firing, millions of them, instantly, without thought, like lifting a finger. Second nature. Asking questions, therefore, is weird, because we understand that there's something we don't know, and we have nothing to fill it with, or we only have a vague description of what to fill it in with. And the other neurons will tell that mystery item to assign itself to a neuron, because of course they will. So the neurons tell that mystery object to take on a neuronic shape, because that's the only way that we can perceive things, through the neuron firing sequence, rather. And so, that neuron commanding the object is vague. Yet, how do we know that something is there at all? In essence, if a variable is unknown, or an object is unknown, for all intents and purposes, it does not exist. It is not currently being factored into any of the processes that we use in our daily lives or occasional lives. We may use them without realizing, but the act of realization doesn't exist yet. And so how do we know that there's something there if it doesn't even exist? That is the question that analyzes questions. Little kids ask questions, they need to. Our verbal method of expression and communication to one another, talking, is extremely complex, has so many different facets and a unique sound or collection of sounds for everything, that asking questions is a necessary adaptation that a human must do in order to continue development. If you ask me, people with learning disabilities or autism or mental retardation, they never figured out in their early developmental stages how to ask questions. And so now they can't learn because they never asked enough questions or figured out how to ask questions enough. Through asking questions, children learn how to speak, how to walk, how to do everything. How to die. Nah, just kidding. They don't learn how to die until they're 80. That's something that no one really learns. Let me tell you why dying does not exist. Dying is a question. What is dying? Well, what is dying? The undefined variable here is dying. Dying is a cease of all vital functions, and we're no longer a living organism. That is dying. However, the application of this concept is missing in everybody's life. You can talk about dying all you want, but until you try it, you don't really know what dying is. Only the people who have died and come back from the dead have truly died and understand what death entails. However, they still don't even know because they were only dead for such a short amount of time that their bodies were redeemable, that they were able to be sucked back into this life. What if the moment your body is no longer able to function or come back from the dead, that is when true death occurs? The space that they go to in between these two time periods is just, we'll call it the divide. I'm getting off topic. Let's bring it back. So death doesn't exist. We can't be sure that anyone that quote-unquote died isn't still conscious to this day. The people in coffins, they can still exist mentally, but their bodies have lost the connection necessary to their mind to do anything. Their body stopped functioning, but their consciousness lives on, kind of like a spirit. So in that sense, death does not exist. Only cease of physical operation. So, no one dies. Okay, cool. What happens to cremated people? You are your brain, at least theoretically. And if we destroy the brain, you go away with it. So those decayed corpses where the brain gets eaten by rats, does their consciousness get stretched across multiple animals like a blanket across the earth? And when those animals die, and those bits of brain are digested and converted into other forms of matter, do you haunt those forms of matter forever, unable to escape, simultaneously existing between each and every one, yet unable to communicate between them? This is what questions do. They create fantasy worlds where nothing makes sense. The laws of our physics don't apply. They create an abstract space in your mind where you're able to run tests and trials and ask real questions in the search for the unknown variable. And you find multiple candidates. Let's say, who's that guy over there? It could be the Grim Reaper. It could be Donald Trump. It could be Martin Jones, some guy off the street. It could be a dinosaur in a human costume. Now, none of those answers are wrong because we have not gone over to confirm whether or not they're true or false. So for all intents and purposes, they're all true. However, we need to single out one and stick with it so that when we go over there, we're either right or wrong and we learn. The abstract space in our minds where that man over there is Godzilla in a human costume, is the Grim Reaper, is Donald Trump, is Martin Jones, that universe exists in our minds. And your mind then goes in and says, okay, now that we have all these possible candidates, let's plug in reality, which is stuff like physics, logic. Yeah, that's basically it. Physics and logic. So physically, Godzilla is not in a human costume. You can't compress that animal. Well, Godzilla doesn't even exist. But let's say that he does, and he lives in Tokyo, and he's in a petting zoo. Godzilla is not in this man costume because it's too tiny for Godzilla to really exist. So, okay, that man is not Godzilla in a human costume. We can cross that off the list. Next, the Grim Reaper. Who's the Grim Reaper? Well, the Grim Reaper is the skeleton man that comes for you when it's your time to die. And he takes your soul. Maybe he kills your body. Maybe he's your best friend and you're trapped together for all eternity just having a conversation over a drink, except that drink doesn't exist because nothing exists in the spiritual realm except the spirits themselves. But do we know that the Grim Reaper exists? Have we ever seen him in person? Or her? Or it? The Grim Reaper has no evidence of existing. Therefore, it is not the Grim Reaper, because he doesn't exist. So now we're left with two things, Donald Trump and Martin Jones. Again, neither of them are wrong off the bat. Is the man Donald Trump? Physically, yes. Is the man Martin Jones? Physically, yes. So now comes the logic input of reality into our abstract think tank. The probability that that man is Donald Trump is very low. One person who rules the entire country without their bodyguards, without people trying to kill him, without riots at the sight of him, that probability is extremely low. What if it's Donald Trump in disguise? Well, it could be. and there's just a decoy Trump in the White House. Or maybe there's no decoy. Everyone in the White House just knows that he's out for a day walk, and they're guarding an empty chair. Okay, so let's say the arbitrary probability that that man is Donald Trump is 0.02. In 100 trials, that man will be Donald Trump 2 of the 100 times. That's obviously incredibly high, but it's okay. So now, moving on to the final candidate, Martin Jones. Who's Martin Jones? I'm sure you could tell that I made that name up just out of the blue. Martin Jones is an arbitrary man with no traits about him. The physical image that you have of Martin Jones in your head is the only Martin Jones that exists, because Martin Jones is a figment of your imagination, of my imagination, transferred to yours. Is there a Martin Jones in the world? Some guy named Martin Jones? Yes. He's somewhere doing his thing. But that's not the Martin Jones we're talking about. We're talking about the Martin Jones that is the placeholder for this man's identity. The probability that that man is Martin Jones and not Donald Trump is 0.98, because that's the reciprocal for the Trump probability. So 0.02 plus 0.98 equals 1, which is 100% probability. So in 100 trials, that man will be Martin Jones 98 out of 100 times. And then we go over there. We know as we're approaching this man that it's not going to be Donald Trump, it's going to be Martin Jones, but it's still possible that it's Donald Trump, right? So we get over there, say hello, really awkward introduction because, hey, I just saw you on the street and I was curious if you're Donald Trump or not. But as soon as you look at them, you realize that's not Donald Trump. Okay, Donald Trump's off the list. This man is Martin Jones. Martin Jones exists now, and it's you. And as you learn more about that person, learn their name, their habits, who they are, then Martin Jones ceases to exist and is slowly encroached upon and corrupted by this new person that you're meeting factually in reality right now as time passes. So that was a really complicated way to say a question is the quest to figure out the unknown variable using variables that we know already. In the Martin Jones problem, the only thing we used our prior knowledge to do was to disprove the other claims, not to prove our own. Questions can also prove our own. In order to do this, answer the unknown variable, our minds create an abstract space in which anything is possible, and we plug things in and then apply reality after that and figure out if it's true or not. To my interpretation, that is what a question is. This is the part of the video where most YouTubers would say, what do you guys think? There's no way of knowing what you guys think, if you even exist in the first place. A YouTuber could create a video and post it, and nobody watches it. And all the times they said, hey guys, what's up you guys? Hey guys, please leave a like. Hey guys, please subscribe. Hey guys, hey viewers. Hey, what's up guys? They don't exist. That person's making an assumption. Their YouTube video exists in an abstract world. And until they see the actual viewer count rise and see evidence that there are people, such as comments, only then is their question answered if there even is a guys. Because every time they post a video, they don't know if anyone's going to watch it. Sure, someone like PewDiePie who has millions of subscribers, of course he's going to have viewers. But what if he doesn't? All those, hey, what's up, bros? That bros is presumptuous. So he's not asking the question anymore. He's saying, hey, what's up, guys? I know you're there. I know you're there. But he doesn't. He does not know that in that particular instance, those words that he is speaking will be heard by any other living human. So a question is the quest for the unknown variable. The very essence of how we learn, of how we disprove things. Learning is, thing A is true. It exists. But have I answered this question? Is there a universal answer key somewhere that I'm not aware of? The question, what is a question? Could have a much more brief, eloquent response than I'm able to supply in my very limited knowledge of American English on this day, at this age, in this state. The question, what is a question, is a quest for the mystery variable question. And what is it? We can't know. There's no universal answer key. Everyone's answer to what is a question is going to vary minusculely. So the question still remains, what is a question?